To order our meeting. And on behalf of the board, we acknowledge that York Region is located on the traditional territory of many Indigenous people, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis peoples, and the treaty territories of the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and the Williams Treaties First Nations. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous people, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina First Nation as our closest First Nations community. I'll ask the board members if there's any disclosure of interest. Seeing none, our confirmation of our public meeting minutes of February 26. I'll ask Vice Chair. So Member Pritchard and then Member Cartalucci, all in favor. And you can check Robert's Rules of Order. You can move the minutes even though you're not here. No, it's ongoing. But anyway, that carries. Chief, there's a presentation. You'll introduce it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning, members of the board. Nice to see everyone. As you can see, we have a presentation on the agenda today. The presentation is titled Enhancing Police Visibility, Efficiency, and Innovation. So I'm going to turn it over to Staff Superintendent Christina Dawson to introduce the team. And then we can collectively answer any questions that you might have. Just for your awareness, Deputy De Silva is the executive sponsor of a lot of the work here that's going on this specific project. But Paulo, myself, Christina, or any of the team will be able to answer any of those questions. So Christina.
Thank you, Chief, and good morning, Chairman and members of the board. In strategic services and quality assurance, we are continually evaluating our frontline resourcing and capabilities through data-driven analysis, examining business processes, and exploring the use of new technologies. Inspector James and Staff Sergeant Plant will take us through a short presentation on what they've been working on to ensure that York Regional Police is providing efficient and effective policing services and enhancing citizens' feelings of being safe in their communities. Doug?
Thank you, Staff Superintendent Dawson. Good morning, members of the board, and thank you for this opportunity to share our work with you today. My name is Doug James. This is Chris Plant, and we're going to take you through a brief overview of some exciting initiatives that our unit is working on in order to increase frontline overall effectiveness with the goal of maintaining community safety and the community's sense of safety while we're ensuring that we're being good stewards of our resources and finding business process efficiencies. There are 4 specific topics that we're going to cover, and I'd like to first state that this process of reviewing our frontline and CIB resourcing and capabilities isn't new. We have been engaged in similar assessments for well over 10 years, with past examples being the PIT Crew, Project Nova, and most recently Project Symmetry. All this to say that we're constantly assessing our metrics, making adjustments, finding efficiencies, and reallocating resources to ensure that we're not only meeting the legislated needs of the adequate and effective policing standards, but we're delivering the best possible service to our community as our environment grows and transforms. Thank you. So looking at a balanced approach, what this refers to is the breakdown of the major tasks that our frontline officers complete on a daily basis. This model was developed through an in-depth sector analysis of their average workload and divided into categories. So let me show you the right. There it is. So number 1 is the citizen-generated calls for service. This is also known as our reactive policing. Number 2 is proactive policing. These are activities that an officer engages in with the intent of directly or indirectly detecting or preventing a crime. Number 3, administrative duties. These are non-enforcement duties, including report writing, note-taking, paperwork, and court preparation. And number 4 is community engagement. And these are activities that are intended to build trust and confidence through positive interactions with members of our community. We refer to these as the ideal levels because it represents the average across the region. However, this model fluctuates and changes due to numerous factors. One example, for instance, would be technology. As we introduce new advancements that cut down on note-taking and report writing, this section would experience an adjustment in time spent in those corresponding activities. Now, we can use this model in a data-driven analysis through the use of our business intelligence tool and unit to determine if a particular sector in a district is experiencing a deviation, which causes us to look at making adjustments and fine-tuning our deployment methods like scheduling, and it could be as drastic as adding another patrol car. Now, this is a very simplified explanation of what we can do through the business intelligence unit and our in-house data scientists. In reality, it's very complex in terms of analyzing the detailed minutia for the days and times of call volumes, call types, optimized deployment models, shift scheduling, and predictive modeling. This tool also evaluates one component of an officer's wellness by measuring their workload comparative to other sectors. This represents a more balanced distribution of work and can help prevent burnout or provide a little emotional recovery between traumatic calls or incidents. And lastly, this model provides direction to our frontline members, allowing them to understand the expectations placed upon them while addressing community concerns in policing. A timely example of this is using our intelligence-driven data to combat residential break-and enters, as mentioned by the Deputant at last month's board meeting. Thus, we're working to maintain the community's sense of safety in their homes and in their neighborhoods. For some reason, it keeps jumping ahead on me. There we go. Another important quantitative measure that we research is a sector analysis of the types of calls for service and the effectiveness of our response to each of them. It's constantly questioning our business processes and determining the best course of action in both our type of response and the level of service that we provide. As we know, the number of citizen-generated calls for service that we receive is increasing as our regional population expands, and we have to ensure that we're strategically analyzing our methods and maintaining our excellent priority 1 response time. All of this is achieved by conducting cyclical reviews, ensuring continual assessments of our data, adding new programs like our Special Constable Community Support Officers, and running internal projects like Symmetry, all culminating with the creation of a full-time operational continuous improvement unit, which we'll focus on a little bit more. In explaining Project Symmetry with a little more depth, it was born from a comprehensive report that PricewaterhouseCoopers conducted in 2023, assessing our frontline and CIB resourcing capabilities. Among other factors, they identified that York Regional Police is responding to a significant amount of non-policing matters, that criminal investigations are more complex than ever before, requiring more time and money and resources, and that low priority calls are eating up our frontline and CIB resources. Project Symmetry was commissioned to develop strategic improvements to our business processes and better align us with our service objectives. We are creating efficiencies through data analysis, driving the use of technology, utilizing alternative response methods, and making internal process changes. This will all result in an increase in time dedicated to intelligence-driven criminal enforcement, increase violent crime enforcement initiatives, and an increase in police visibility and proactivity. Chris is now going to take us through a few of the examples of Project Symmetry that he and his team have been working through.
Thank you, Inspector. Good morning, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Staff Sergeant Chris Plant, currently assigned to the Strategic Services Bureau at York Regional Police. It has been a
Sorry,
pleasure.
just pull your mic in front of you there.
Chairman.
Thank
you. It's been a pleasure to lead the Project Symmetry team for the past year and being able to contribute in this way to the vision and mission of the York Regional Police. We began exploring call types in March of 2024, trying to determine what we are spending a great deal of time on that does not necessarily constitute core policing functions. By looking at the types of calls we attend, it allowed us to make adjustments around how we attend those calls. This not only improved response times to emergencies, but also allowed officers to dedicate more time to proactive policing and community engagement. Sometimes the police are not always the most appropriate agency or service to deal with issues that arise in the community. When the right agency handles the right call, it leads to faster resolutions, better response allocation, and improved public satisfaction. It also helps police focus on crime prevention, emergency response, and complex investigations during a period of time where we have seen increases in violent crime across the region. Let's jump in that again. As an example, I'll highlight 3 call types the Project Symmetry team was able to address in 2024, creating efficiencies for all frontline policing in the region. Absent children from schools were previously reported to us as missing child calls, triggering a priority 1 response. We worked hand in hand with the school boards to help them create the distinction between a missing child and an absent child. Instead of multiple frontline officers responding, these calls can now be diverted to our special constables when applicable, or a single frontline unit. This ensures a more measured response while freeing up officers for higher priority incidents. With gas drive-offs, by changing our own internal processes, we improved efficiency in handling these cases, reducing the impact of frontline officers while improving investigative workflows. And with shoplifting, previously several barriers limited the effectiveness of digital reporting. We've now made it easier for businesses to report incidents without requiring immediate frontline intervention or waiting for frontline officers to physically attend minor shoplifting incidents. Thank you. Between some of the gas companies this year moving to a prepaid model and the changes we made internally, we have seen a 93% reduction in workload for these types of calls. Shoplifting at this point is just a projection, but we anticipate that we will gain 15% efficiency in the way we handle these types of calls. And with the absenteeism calls, we have 6 months to compare to the previous year, as this new initiative only began in September. But in that time, we have seen 200 hours of policing return to the front line, representing a 33% efficiency in the manner we are now handling these call types. Each efficiency gained through Project Symmetry has allowed us to re-stabilize the frontline policing model that was mentioned by the inspector. Where some patrol sectors experience over 60% citizen-generated calls, Project Symmetry has helped to restore balance, working toward achieving that desired state of 40, 35, 20, and 5. Balancing the frontline workload is not only important for the wellness of our frontline members, but also our ability to deliver more efficient service to the community as a whole. Due to the success of Project Symmetry, we've taken the next step as an organization and created the Operational Continuous Improvement Unit at YRP. This unit will take on the work of Symmetry in real time, continuously monitoring efficiency, assessing our policing deployment models, and making live time adjustments based on emerging or changing crime trends. While the Project Symmetry timeline will wrap up in 2025, its impact will continue through this new unit, ensuring we stay proactive, modern, and responsive to evolving policing demands. As we move forward, the Operational Continuous Improvement Unit won't just focus on efficiency, it will be a hub for innovation. In the coming months, we intend on launching a built-in innovation lab at YRP, bringing police officers together with some of the University of Toronto's brightest minds in artificial intelligence. This partnership will become a space for new ideas, cutting-edge solutions, reshaping how we deploy resources, and automating routine administrative tasks. By continually assessing our policing models, we will ensure that our service remains agile, effective, and always focused on community safety. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation. Can't say enough about the hub of innovation that you guys are doing there. been around a while. You guys had a BI tool. You were leaders in business intelligence and predictive policing. So you're taking it the next step. And the big thing that I wrote down was this is providing a greater availability of police to be present in our communities. And that's, as a politician, that's what we hear. We need to see the police more in our communities. So kudos to everybody involved. And Vice Chair Jackson's probably going to add to that.
Thank you, Chairman, through you, and good morning, everyone. First off, thank you, staff and Staff Sergeant, for the presentation. I think it's terrific news. I guess my thing is, it was interesting when you popped up the slide about other agencies or services. I pulled it up here as to getting it away from you. And of course, when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, that's all bylaw stuff. So my question is that you've done great work. How are you going to communicate this to the public? Because the thing is that we need to educate the public on to who to call, as opposed to calling you. I mean, this work is great, but it's only as good as that our residents know who to call, so that our frontline officers can actually do the work that we need them to do. So I'm wondering if you could just walk me through your communications plan, or how you're going to roll this out to the community.
Through you, Chair, and to Vice Chair Jackson. So throughout the entire process, when we look at the absentee calls, we have communicated to, obviously, the school boards, both the Catholic and public school boards, in terms of our approach. In relation to the actual gas drive thefts, I would defer that question in private, because there's a nuance to that specific how we're actually communicating that out to ensure that we're actually not promoting any more attempts in relation to further gas drive thefts. But we do have a communication strategy built into Project Symmetry when it comes to bylaw and anything that is impacting municipalities. So, and that includes York Region's 211 and any of the municipal call centers as well.
Through the chair, thank you, Deputy. Just to follow up on that, but is a communication strategy in place? Because I'm talking about social media. I mean, we have some great tools that we could use, which costs us nothing to get the word out. Are you still trying to develop a plan, or is the communication plan? And I understand that I'm speaking in particular to noise, parking, and illegal dumping. I know it may be animal control, but has that been written? I mean,
Not yet. So those pieces have not been finalized in terms of the execution of them. And on the bylaw, just specifically on the noise, each municipality has different bylaw agencies, and not everyone works past 11. So there is current work in progress to align what that looks like from a noise bylaw perspective, to ensure we don't want the default to be us, but we are looking at a triage to say, what is the time? Is it 11? Is it 2? So to your question, long-winded, there is a strategy once we get to the final decision on some of these pieces on the bylaw side specific.
Wonderful. Through the chair, thank you so much. That's great. I just think that we just need to pump this out to, we can defer 25% of the calls because of social media through Instagram or Facebook or X. I think it would be an excellent opportunity. But once again, thank you for the work that you've done. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, and then Mayor Perch. Or sorry, member. Well,
yeah, so I'm glad I'm sure you are, and it sounds like you're coordinating with bylaws, because obviously some of those areas, as you try to direct them to the proper place is going to have some more demands, and they got to make sure you're coordinating how you handle that. I would say about the communications, I mean, that can cut both ways, right? You can say to everybody, hey, stop calling the police for these things. I know it would be more sophisticated than that, but at the same time, you're also saying to people who are making lots of noise or littering, and we have some ones that they go and do it constantly in parks. So you're kind of also saying to them, the police are stepping out of this, and some of them might take it as well. It's just going to get easier. I don't have to worry about my noise as much anymore. So I don't know that this is something you want to communicate out too much, or how you do it is going to be very important, one of the two. Yeah, sorry, did you want to comment on that?
That is exactly the reason that we have not communicated on the gas drive theft offs, specifically because of that. So within our communication strategy, we're very mindful of the impacts of our decision on other agencies or downstreaming to other agencies as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one, I was just really curious about, you were talking about the areas of efficiencies and that were captured by this, but you also mentioned, although it wasn't specific to this, about report writing and AI. And, my understanding, at least through, talking to people, is that report writing is not everybody's favorite thing. It's very time consuming, and there's great opportunity here. And so just to hear more about where that's at, what kind of things we're looking at. I'll tell a quick story. I think I've told the chief this one, but I'll tell a quick story about at the town. We're piloting right now. So we have to, by law, all the cities have to inspect every road every year. And you have to, any pothole over 8 centimeters, and any of this or that. And so inspectors and employees go down the roads, see something, they think they see something, they get out, they take pictures, they write a report, and they go to the next one, et cetera. Now there's a camera on top of the car in this pilot, and the camera goes down the street, and it goes bent sign, pothole, crack in the road. And not only does it capture it, it takes the photos and writes the report, and it's in the inbox the next morning of the work crew. It's like, it's amazing. So I find that area really fascinating in terms of opportunity. Would love to hear a little bit about where that's going.
Yeah, maybe I can start here, Mr. Chair, through you. All of what you've said is on the table for us. The interesting piece about this is it also impacts a number of other areas within the organization that has a lot of people working in them as well. So we're trying to walk a little bit before we run on this. We're trying to get the resources in place through this innovation lab and really truly understand, look, the reality is a number, and you saw, we don't need to go back here, but on that pie chart that showed the breakdown of an officer's time, 40% on calls, 35% proactive. There was a section there talked about administrative time. Mm-hmm. That whole AI piece is going to hopefully much reduce that administrative time, because what we want officers to be able to do is to have more time to be proactive, right? And then that AI piece will also help in the call response time as well, the 40%. And then if we can tackle those two areas using, AI as an example, that's going to give us the opportunity to be more present in the community, like Mr. Chair said, reduce that administrative time, and then spend our time where we really need officers to spend the time. Because I can tell you, of that 40% bucket, and I know the guys talked about it, we still know about 51% or 52% of the calls we go to could be dealt with by other means, right? We're working with the municipalities, we're working with the region substantially on mental health, all of those issues. So it's kind of a whole school approach to looking at the whole system together to see, okay, where's the low hanging fruit on efficiencies? Because we've done a number of other things that you have not even heard about at this board. Some new board members here, we've saved $1 million to the board and to the organization with Project Nova before doing exactly the same type work. But we want this to be an ongoing, constant process, not just a one-off project. So Symmetry will be the project, sponsored by the deputy and the group here doing the work. But the ongoing new evolution of that unit will be to constantly be looking at this so we can embrace new technologies. AI is going to revolutionize some of this work. So we're all really excited at the opportunities here. There's already some work going on, but I'd like to bring it back to the board at some point to tell a more fulsome story about what we're actually doing, because I think you're going to find there's some really interesting things that we're going to learn and find and develop with the university. So
yeah, no, it's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, and as you said, it's the opportunities will just constantly emerge. And we were looking at the town, how many illegal driveway widenings have there been? Because there's more and more complaints about it. Call the company up that's doing our potholes, and they said, oh yeah, we can program it for that. And they'll just drive down the road and tell us that street has 22. Here's the addresses. Like it's incredible. So thank you.
Member Purchell.
There we are. A couple of questions, and please don't answer anything that shouldn't be answered in public space. Number one, how do you triage the calls to make sure that frontline officers aren't being used on things that they don't need to be used on. For example, animal control or a public health issue. Does your call center do that diversion to other agencies just to offload work?
I can take that through you, Chair. So our communication center does do that. We do have specific SOPs. So if it is an animal complaint, and we'll just take that as an example, if we have to dispatch an animal, then we do go. So there are instances and times when, although it may not fit the mandate, there is a specific purpose for our attendance. And for animal complaints, obviously, when we're dispatching them, we still attend. If it's a rabid animal, not so much. We will, our communication center will then downstream that to the appropriate municipality or agency that deals with that. So there is a triage mechanism within our 911 communication center that basically allows them to sort of triage the calls. Ultimately, as a service provider, we are at times the last resort for people. And if someone does insist, despite some of those, we still do attend on some of those.
Yeah, and that's a big issue, obviously, in duplication of service and cost. So, for example, a medical emergency, you will now often see both fire and police show up. When one or the other, ideally fire or emergency ambulance services, would be not tying up that police vehicle that has showed up. And so that entire triage piece needs to be thought through to generate that efficiency. The second point, you have a business model tool that you're using right now. I suspect, and again, please don't answer any question that shouldn't be answered. I suspect that you've developed a predictive analytics model in-house. Is that proprietary software that has been developed strictly for YRP, or is that software being augmented by commercial software that is really very, very advanced right now?
What I could say is a little bit of both. So it is proprietary to YRP. It's been developed. We were probably the lead agency in business intelligence and analytics. It goes back well over 8 years. We do partner with a private company that is most police agencies use, and it's really for mapping. But in terms of predictive analytics, we do a lot of that work. We do have a data scientist that we've hired last year to really, when you talk about our business intelligence tool, if you sit in the front seat of a cruiser, an officer can see very easily who's wanted in the neighborhood, what calls have been generated in the neighborhood, how long you've actually been in a certain neighborhood, how many minutes have gone by since that neighborhood hasn't been visited. So when we come to our business intelligence tool, we are very, very fortunate that we've invested heavily in a unit that really allows our officers to be very efficient. And when we look at the slice of the pie in terms of proactive policing, there is not 1 minute that we probably cannot account for in relation to their proactive activity and the initiatives that we have ongoing at their fingertips. Chief?
Yeah, I just add one last piece. On the predictive side, though, Mr. Purchell, I think this is where AI is going to help us be much more predictive, because there's a lot of factors. I was involved with some work at West before the University of British Columbia when they were trying to develop some predictive analytics. And they were, at the time, this is going back maybe 10 years, they were really looking at property crimes, because there's, on the person side of crimes, there's a lot of other factors that can't be used sometimes on the predictive side because of human behavior and how that changes. I think we're in a different space now. I don't know the answer. All I'm saying is I think the AI, the evolution of AI and what it's going to allow police services to do in the future is going to be much more predictive, and to place our resources more proactively in spaces where we might predict crimes might occur versus being reactive and responding, right? That's the plan.
And I commend you for your leadership because you are at the front end again, as this force often is, in terms of the future. AI is coming at us much quicker than most people understand. Very briefly, most of the war in Ukraine is being fought on the Ukrainian side through a company called Palantir, which is an American predictive analytics model that literally allocates resources down to the baseline interaction level of small units or subunits. And this is extraordinary because the challenge is the same, though the scale is different. The challenge is resources versus missions. And the ideal thing is to optimally put that fit together, resources versus missions. And you brought another variable into this discussion, and that is that there's increasing complexity of threat coming at the service. And that's where the reallocation has to fit best for the complex crimes, complex threats, and complex challenges that you will end up being dumped on because you're the first line on all of those problems. So I'm delighted to hear you're working with U of T. My only comment is that I would recommend that you ask them some questions about not reinventing the wheel, but looking to market in terms of what predictive analytics could accelerate your own package. Because within a year, this environment changes completely because two things are coming online, and that is quantum computing and an absolutely ballistic transition in AI capability. Everything changes dramatically. And it's a matter of staying where you can optimally provide the things that you need, because the things you need are optimally represented on the user side, our side, in the things that we need. And towards this rebalance, this is a critically important initiative with absolutely potentially either very good or very challenging outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jackson, you'll move receipt of the presentation. Seconded by Member Purchell. All in favor? That carries. There are no deputations today. Communications 7-1. Chief.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and through you, as much as this is here just for the board to receive it, I thought it's definitely worthy of at least providing some commentary on this. We're extremely proud as an organization once again. As you can see in the memo, and we've been involved in this top 100 competition for many years. And I will say, we haven't quite cracked the one thing we're looking to crack, which is to be announced as a top 100 employer for the country. But for the 6th year, we've made the short list on that. And I would say for the 10th year, as you can see in the note, we've been selected as one of the Greater Toronto Area's top 100 employers. So we're really honored to be to have that awarded to us, and for the 8th year in a row. And this is really a big one for us. We are nationally recognized as a top 100 employer for young people, which is, as we know, that's the future of our organization. So I just wanted to provide that comment. We are already at it. Vanessa and her entire team are working diligently to get our application back in to highlight all of the new changes at YRP, and we'll continue to go after this. It's a great recruiting tool. It's an opportunity. And as you've heard us say before, collectively, when we recruit out for new members, in many cases, when you ask, which we always do, what brought you to YRP? Many times they reference the fact that we were recognized as a top 100 employer. And I think for the last year, the only other police agency was an agency to the west of us, a little further west than Peel. But at the end of the day, we are the only 2 police agencies, and we've been the only police agency recognized here for as long as I can remember this award being given out. So anyway, it's a good news story for both the board and for the organization. And I just thought I'd make some comment on that. And thanks to Vanessa and her entire team for there's a lot of work goes into this application process. There's a lot of pieces that need to be pulled in and a lot of information that needs to be put into it. So we really appreciate all their work on it as well. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments? If not, Member Carlucci, Member Faisal, you'll move to receive. All in favor? That carries. 7.2 is further correspondence, Inspector General of Policing. I'll ask Member Taylor, Vice Chair Jackson to move and second. Any comments? All in favor? That carries. Reports for consideration. I'll ask for one's members if they have any they wish to separate. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to call 8.3 and 8.3, 8.7. Thank you.
8.3 and 8.7. Any other member wish to separate any? If not, I'll ask Member Purchell and Member Cartelucci to move receipt of 8.1, 8.2, 8.4, 8.5, 8.6, and 8.8. All in favor? That carries. Vice Chair Jackson, 8.3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just reading through this and it's not that I disagree with the recommendation, just a question on it. When I'm reading through the document, I understand that the need to, to send these confiscated clothing items to the human trafficking unit, which I don't have a huge problem with at all. But my question is that I think I may have asked this question last year, just about an auction. I guess my question, are these high-end goods that we've confiscated? And because I'm looking at what they got at auction and I know sometimes we confiscate some high-end goods, high-end handbags. And I'm thinking, we could maybe do better than that. I just like, are these like clothes from, I don't want to start. Are they more lower end? Because I thought if they're higher end, we could maybe make a lot more money. That was my only question.
Good morning and through you,
No, it's
Mr.
not.
Chair. So to generalize on the brands of clothing that we do receive, you're selling in bulk and we're not talking about name brands, and the clothing that we do often sees, the manufacturers won't take them back, obviously. So the sale, like the value at auction is considerably lower, right? If you were talking, say, like a high-end brand, and they would take it back, then there's a value attributed to that, be it a handbag or a blazer. But when the manufacturer or the designer will not take them back, they're basically at the mercy of who's going to buy them. So we do our best to try to get as much as we can for them. But in the most part, and I'm thinking back to 24, the seizures there was nothing significant. But unfortunately, we can only get what is offered at auction.
Right, but just a question through the chair to Deputy Almeida. So with that, I know sometimes when we proceeds of crime, I'm going to look at, I think this is Deputy Almeida's thing. For example, I know sometimes when they go through proceeds of crime, you are seizing luxury goods, wallet, clothing, handbags, watches. Now, if they aren't returned and would we then auction those or we just give them away? Because I'm just looking at more high-end goods, because I'm just looking at ways, because I'd rather auction them and then give the human trafficking unit a whack of cash for them to go out and buy what they're wanting to get, as opposed to here's stuff that may not fit. So I'm just wondering, what do we do that with, like with proceeds of crime?
Yeah, so maybe I'll just start. First thing has to happen is we have to wait for a disposition from the
Of course,
court,
no, I
right?
understand that.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But when we do get them, Jeff, you had a comment as well on this.
Yeah, thank you. I think to contextualize this with an example, so we use a firm called Public Auctions Canada. It's like an eBay, but for this kind of sales. They'll go up on a public website. There's a bidding process, a time assigned to them. I'll give you a few examples. The hot buys right now are a Ray-Ban Benji Tortoise glasses. Current bid is $16.74. If you'd like assorted hammers, the current bid is $6.24, or a vintage Saturn Swiss-made stopwatch is $6.75. So to answer your question, we get what we get. There's a very public process. That's the main point, is that there's a transparent public process to the sale.
That's all I'm looking for. Thank you, Chair. No, I'm fine with that. I was just thinking sometimes there may be times where once the disposition is and we don't have to give it back and we can keep it, like maybe a vehicle or something like that we've kept. What do we do with them? I mean, because when I was reading this, because I'm just figuring out ways if we could sell them at auction, Gucci handbag. we could sell that. We get a lot more than $10 for it. So I just throwing that.
Mr. Chair, I'll add one more thing. So there is when there's items forfeited as a result of a disposition in court versus when something is entered in as proceeds of crime and then forfeited to the Crown.
I
There's a
understand they're different. I totally get that.
Okay.
No, I understand that. I'm not saying that we're going to sell it off and then may have to give it back. I get that. But I'm saying if the disposition is such that we can keep that, whether it's a car, whether it is what we do. That's fine. I'll move the staff's
Thank
recommendation.
you. Seconded by member Purchell. All in favor? That carries. Item 8.7, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, of course, my screen's just gone dark on me and I've lost everything. Okay, this was the conferences. First off, I want to thank the ED for the report. I just a question. There's, I don't know whether it had to do with privacy or what. I know that this is a public report, but the participants were not named. They were just named as board members or staff members. Is there a particular reason? Maybe staff cannot be named, but myself, I would much prefer to have my name on this that I attended as opposed to a board member. I mean, granted, the recent ones, this is vice chair, and if anybody looks up, they know that it's me. But I think though that for an optics perspective, especially for myself as a member of council, I would like my name on these. And I don't know, I'm going to look to the chair and to the mayor, Taylor. I don't know, maybe you can explain why we weren't named. And maybe it's a privacy issue for staff, but.
It was to keep it consistent because staff was being named. The other portion, as you actually worked out, is they could look up on the board site and see who's the vice chair and the chair at the time of those conferences.
But that's fine, but it's not clear. People have to go hunting. I don't want any I don't know. I'm going to look to the chair.
I
on
don't
this.
mind if you're suggesting or moving that they associate our names with it as well. I have no problems. We're
Well,
very.
Chairman, my point is that any of these funds or that are expended through get reported up through YRP or get through New York Region, which then get published annually as to the expenses as to a member of regional council, for example, which our report just came out last month with our expenses. But I think that I would prefer personally that my name show in these reports in future going forward. Not asking you to amend this report, but in future, I just need it to be more transparent. I have absolutely nothing to hide. I go to these conferences to learn. And I think that by not showing our names and just having it as a board member looks as if we're trying to hide something. So those are just my comments, just maybe in going forward. And I don't know whether the chairman or Mayor Taylor agrees or
I just, I understand what you're saying. I think maybe they should circulate and talk to everybody about it. I don't think we should put people on the spot here if they want their names on it. But for example, I don't put when I'm on vacation on Facebook. If I'm at this conference for 3 years in a row, it's pretty clear I'm away from home. So I can live with that, but I think there's other members who might have opinions, but I don't think we should have to. I think maybe they can just circulate and ask, is everybody comfortable? And if everybody says they're comfortable, then away we go.
To the chair and through to the mayor, I'm not saying the non-political board members. I'm speaking about political board members because all our salaries are public. We go on the sunshine list, all our expenses are public and they get listed. I'm not saying
Right.
for these three gentlemen, for example, I'm speaking us as members of a municipal council.
So I guess just in terms of how one would report that out, though, the consistency, would you write a name and then write one other board member? Because if you write one board member, people are going to start thinking we're not board members. I just don't know. How
I
you-
understand. I know maybe we just need to talk that through. I
Yeah.
don't know. I just want to be as transparent as possible. So maybe we can have a discussion. I'll move the report, but with thanks to the ED for the detailed reporting on that. So it's a good report, but I just felt that it was, I understood what you were doing, but I want to be as transparent as possible. That's just my point. Thank you, Chairman. I'll move that.
So, because I'm a guy that always tries to be solution focused here. At least for the chair and the vice chair, they could put the names.
Okay.
And then if other members wish, they can add, but after that, it's board members, but the chair and vice chair, they can name us.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll move.
Yep.
Faisal will, board member, thank you. All in favor? That carries. That moves us on to, there is no unfinished business. The other business are they're before us. Saturday's dinner. And then I guess we're going into our private meeting. Oh, be a hero head shave, but the chief already did it. So it's been canceled and moved to April 26th? No, that's, and it's moved to September. I've got time to grow my hair. All right.
Go to Turkey first.
Yeah, that's right. All right, with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to convene into private meeting for the purposes to consider confidential items pertaining to legal and personal matters in accordance with section 42(2) of the Community Safety and Policing Act. Board Member Carlucci, Board Member Faisal,